Kamerad, friend, Ukraine, no Ukraine.
Hello and welcome to a new Ukraine war update. It's been some time and there's a lot to cover, so let's waste no time and get right into it. As always, if you appreciate the effort I put into this video, please show your support with a like and a comment. Thank you. The full 55-minute version of this video is available on my Telegram. The link is in the description. Recently, a number of videos have been released showing Ukrainian tanks destroying Russian armored personnel carriers at point-blank range. The Russian vehicles in these videos appear to be mostly BTR variants, whose armor is clearly no match for the main guns of Ukrainian tanks. As a result, the hits are devastating, as can clearly be seen. While the first two videos appear to be more recent, this one, showing a BTR charging directly into the field of fire of a Ukrainian tank, was labeled as archive footage, although no date was specified. During an intense one-on-one close-quarters fight in a trench, a Ukrainian soldier suddenly threw his helmet at the attacking Russian, who then gave up and fled the trench in a panic. The slow-motion replay shows it a bit more clearly, in case you missed it. Pretty brave move. This Russian soldier tried to intercept an incoming Ukrainian FPV drone by throwing a brick at it. He missed his target, but the drone didn't. This soldier was luckier. He managed to intercept the incoming drone with his walkie-talkie. It's well known that FPV drones have captured all sorts of crazy moments, but this one flies straight through the impact zone of a heavy Russian grad strike. Extremely impressive footage, if you ask me. This helmet cam footage from the outskirts of Torets captures the intense moment a Ukrainian fighter from the Donetsk Oblast police ambushed an unsuspecting lone Russian soldier who was walking directly toward him at extremely close range. The Russian was spotted by a Ukrainian drone, which then passed the information to Ukrainian forces hiding in the basement of a destroyed building. It turned out that this wouldn't be the only unsuspecting Russian soldier unfortunate enough to walk into an ambush. Shortly afterward, the Ukrainian reconnaissance drone spotted two more Russian soldiers approaching the Ukrainians' position. This intelligence advantage allowed the Ukrainian fighter to set up another ambush, this time less hasty and more deliberate. He opted for a sort of linear ambush, meaning he waited till they walked right into his field of fire. While he waited in position, the drone also recorded how the ambush unfolded from above, but I can't show that here. If you want to see the full footage, you can find it on my Telegram, the link is in the description. 2 years ago, I uploaded this video of a Wagner anti-air missile missing a Russian attack helicopter during the Wagner uprising. A newly surfaced archive video from the same event reveals that not all missiles fired that day missed, clearly showing a Russian alligator helicopter being hit and shot down by an anti-air missile at close range. Apparently, there's also cockpit footage from the second helicopter capturing the incident. Rarely does a video illustrate the so-called fog of war as clearly as here. Captured on the helmet cam of an international fighter from Brazil, the footage shows him and two comrades in the woods somewhere around Kharkiv when they suddenly encounter a hideout.
Kamerad, friend.
A lone soldier emerges from it, and the situation is visibly tense, even though all those involved appear confused. While the Brazilian and his comrades initially believed the man to be a friendly soldier, the first doubts are now beginning to surface. They ask him if he's Ukrainian.
Ukraine, Ukraine. Ukraine, no. Hey, Ukraine, no, no Ukraine.
In response to the question, the soldier draws his rifle, meaning he's a Russian. It's unclear why the Russian didn't simply surrender after realizing he was surrounded by Ukrainian forces, but I think it was due to the surreal nature of the situation. This confusion turned into realization and then into panic. An FPV drone got caught in this car's bumper and grille without detonating. The vehicle's luck soon ran out, however, when a second FPV drone hit it and exploded. When these two Ukrainian soldiers ran out of grenades while trying to clear out two Russian positions located in separate basement vaults, they spontaneously decided to make things difficult for the Russians in another way by throwing beehives into their positions. Angry bees in confined spaces like cellars can cause panic and confusion, especially if defenders are wounded, tired, or unable to quickly escape. Since they quickly retreated into a nearby house, possibly to escape the angry bees, it seems their intention was merely to harass the Russians, not to drive them out of the cellar. This Russian soldier didn't even try to escape the Ukrainian FPV drone after crashing his motorcycle. Instead, he remained lying in a relaxed position, seemingly waiting for his inevitable fate. I think this deserves respect. I have to say that this looks pretty crazy to me. The idea is a Chinese approach to drone defense, wrapping the soldier in a cage-like mesh meant to stop drop munitions and FPV drones, obviously at the expense of mobility and maneuverability. This experimental personal anti-drone defense cage borrows its concept from the so-called cope cages used to protect armored vehicles from drones in Ukraine. While it appears capable of deflecting drone-dropped munitions, I doubt its effectiveness against FPV drones, especially those that can be remotely detonated. I definitely see meme potential here, but what's your take on it? Let me know in the comments. Soldiers usually end up on the losing side against FPV drones, and to be honest, I prefer showing the videos where their attacks failed. Like in this case, when a Russian fiber optics guided FPV drone crashed into a Ukrainian soldier's shelter, but failed to explode due to a malfunction. The Ukrainian soldier slowly pushed the barrel of his weapon out from cover while the drone bounced up and down, possibly because the operator was still trying to bring it to detonation. This goal aligned with the intentions of the Ukrainian soldier, who tried to hit it with gunfire several times before the drone lost connection, most likely because it eventually did detonate. This video clearly shows that these small FPV drones are essentially flying IEDs. In it, a Ukrainian operator lands his drone right in front of a Russian FPV operator's hideout, pretending to have lost control. After observing the scene for a little while, the Russian drone operator proceeded to pick up the Ukrainian drone, either thinking it had lost control or was a friendly one, since it hadn't detonated. A fatal mistake, as the Ukrainian operator remotely detonated the drone while it was in his hands. The deciding factor in an encounter with FPV drones is often nothing more than luck. Currently, there are some standard operating procedures to deal with them, but I'll address that another time. Because they are difficult to intercept with small arms fire, electronic anti-drone rifles often prove ineffective, and self-propelled anti-aircraft guns aren't available at the squad level. One approach against drones is to fight fire with fire, using so-called interceptor drones. Here, you just saw a relatively new Russian hand-launched interceptor drone in action. The basic concept behind them is simple. In the best-case scenario, once launched, they use automated targeting and artificial intelligence to intercept and crash into hostile drones. Most interceptor drones have cigar-shaped main bodies, like the Shadow 3 interceptor from Edge. This design offers aerodynamic efficiency, structural simplicity, and maneuverability. Essentially, it's like turning a missile into a drone without the high cost of a missile and with the added advantage that the drone can be recovered if the target disappears. Also, a surface-to-air missile can only be used against aerial targets, while the Shadow 3, for example, can also be used as a loitering munition against ground targets. It features computer vision navigation and target recognition, allowing for autonomous target acquisition and engagement. Here you see a Russian Su-34 that suffered a landing gear hydraulic failure and barely landed without it. During the slide, the left L-31 FM1 engine tore away and the underside of the fuselage was badly abraded. The crew released the brake parachute just before contact and kept the aircraft precisely level, allowing the twin-engine jet to slide more than 600 meters on its reinforced belly. Russian sources say the jet is now out of commission pending lengthy depot repair. Both aircrew walked away unhurt. This Russian BMP, already heavily damaged and smoking, was struck by no fewer than 6 Ukrainian FPV drones, which hit the vehicle one after another in quick succession. It took a full 3 FPV strikes to halt the already damaged vehicle before the 3 other hits finally detonated it. The reason for this apparent overkill seems to be that the surrounding area had likely already been cleared of Russian forces and the FPV drones' batteries were too low to return to base. As a result, pilots often crash the drones into the next available target, regardless of its tactical value. Depicted here is a group of Russian soldiers using e-scooters for transportation, who were engaged by Ukrainian FPV drones after being spotted by a Ukrainian surveillance drone. While the use of these vehicles might seem foolish at first glance due to their lack of protection, there are also valid reasons why they make sense as a means of transportation. They are extremely quiet, and since even smaller units are often dispersed over several kilometers, using them, especially in the rear, is more practical than walking. This is a video recorded by the camera of a Russian Shawhead drone as it navigates through an illuminated Ukrainian night sky. Tracer rounds and searchlights can be seen as it is on its way to later strike what looks like a freight station. Previous models of this drone type had no camera feed, but the feature has now been added, along with the option to launch the drones on the move, as seen in this clip. While the interception rate is relatively high, this type of drone remains effective at straining and oversaturating Ukrainian air defenses, as well as carrying out strikes on fixed targets. The concept behind it, however, is not new. I already reported on similar types of drones back in 2021. Among them were the Shadow 25 and Shadow 50, the larger, older siblings of the previously mentioned Shadow 3 from Edge Group. However, unlike the Shadow 3, which serves a dual role as both a drone interceptor and a small loitering munition, the Shadow 25 and Shadow 50 are more traditional loitering munitions, similar to the Shohet. The key difference is that they were equipped with onboard video navigation from the start and are capable of autonomous operation. Technically, the Shadow 50 is even capable of landing again, as you can see here, quite untypical for a loitering munition of this type. The number 50 here refers to the maximum payload of 50 kilograms, while the Shadow 25's maximum payload is, who would have thought, 25 kilograms. Both have the same range of about 250 kilometers, but with an endurance of 9 hours, the Shadow 50 can stay airborne much longer than its smaller sibling, which is limited to just 1 hour. Since the Shadow 25 is designed more for tactical level deployment, this appears to be sufficient to get the job done, whereas the Shadow 50 is also suitable for use on the strategic level. This demonstration also shows that the system is quite accurate enough to be called pinpoint, if you ask me. With a speed of about 167 kilometers per hour, the Shadow 25 is slightly slower than the Shohet, which is said to reach around 185 kilometers per hour. However, the Shadow 50 surpasses it by far, with a cruise speed of 400 kilometers per hour. Ukraine has recently released a series of videos showing long-range strike drones hitting targets in Crimea, and the footage is interesting for several reasons. First, it appears the drones were equipped with some kind of electronic warfare systems, as many air defense missiles failed to intercept them. Second, they were also equipped with thermal imaging cameras. Third, they struck targets in Crimea, meaning they hit from a distance of 100 to over 200 kilometers, depending on the exact location of the impact. At first, many believed these were merely FPV drones launched from unmanned vessels, but growing reports suggest they are a new type of long-range drone equipped with satellite communications. Their targets were mainly vessels and radar stations, but they also hit at least one Panzer air defense system. What the destruction of such a system looks like from the ground can be seen in this video. The dichotomy between all the drone footage and the ground level perspective is striking, don't you think? Ukraine is very capable of conducting long-range strikes deep into Russia, and is known for employing creative methods to do so. One such method is converting small civilian aircraft into kamikaze drones. But a Polish company called Fuerzas took this approach a step further, transforming a basic small private jet into a fully fledged unmanned combat aerial vehicle. The system is based on the La-1 aircraft, which is already known for its extremely low variable operating costs. Extensive flight testing has confirmed the jet's exceptionally low fuel consumption. With 4 people on board, the fuel cost is just 14 cents per nautical mile per person. In its drone configuration, however, the number of people on board is 0. The first time I saw the Sinjar, that's what it's called, was at the Dubai Airshow 2023, and I found the concept quite fascinating. It has the capability to carry 4 air-to-ground precision-guided glide weapons while being able to fly at a cruise speed of 545 km per hour. This is thanks to its jet-powered engine, which sets it apart from conventional propeller-driven UCAVs. If you've watched this far, I really want to say thank you. I always find it important to express this, because you're the ones who motivate me to keep going, and your support truly means the world to me. If you've enjoyed the video so far, I'd be incredibly grateful if you could help me out with a like, comment, and share. It makes a huge difference with the YouTube algorithm, and believe me, I wouldn't say this if it weren't extremely important. It keeps me motivated, helps the videos reach more people, and supports the growth of the channel. To create this format, I literally have to go through hundreds, sometimes even thousands, of Telegram posts and watch hundreds of hours of videos to separate the wheat from the chaff for you. And that's when the real work begins. I have to add meaningful commentary and edit all the video material completely on my own. I'm doing the job of researcher, writer, editor, and channel manager all by myself, and if you know what kind of stuff floats around on Telegram that I have to watch to make these videos, you'd understand that much of it is really not pleasant. Also, what you're seeing here are not even the full videos. My edits on Telegram are much longer, what means even more work for one person. I'm not saying this to fish for compliments, but to give you an honest look at the work that goes into these videos and why I sometimes need breaks or why certain uploads come a bit late. So drop a like and join my Telegram channel so I can finally hire some competent help and deliver even more and even better content for you. These two Russian soldiers, who were attacked by a Ukrainian FPV drone in an open field, had a lucky day when the warhead's fuse failed and the drone crashed to the ground without detonating.
Там наши работают, наши. Смотрим.
This helmet cam footage shows a group of Russian soldiers attempting to evacuate a damaged desert cross buggy using another buggy of the same type. However, something is drawing their attention away from the task. Tense and alert, they watch the sky for threats from above in the form of drones. As the footage shows, it doesn't take long for them to arrive. The group begins to scatter, and the soldier wearing the camera prepares to attempt to shoot down the unmanned aerial vehicle with his rifle. He fails, but luckily the drone misses and crashes into the ground in front of the first buggy. Apparently only slightly wounded, he instructs his comrades to quickly return to their original task in order to leave the area. This helmet cam footage, captured in mid-March 2025, shows Russian troops during the recapture of Sucha. It is the largest town held by Ukraine in Russia's Kursk region, and the subsequent Russian operation to recapture it forced Ukrainian forces to withdraw completely from most of Kursk Oblast. After months of failed attempts to dislodge Ukrainian forces, Russia marshaled approximately 78,000 troops, including 11 to 12,000 North Korean soldiers, and launched a coordinated counteroffensive from January till March 2025 that systematically recaptured the occupied territory. Thanks to my brilliant wisdom, ironically speaking, I assume most people are already aware of this. Therefore, I'll keep it brief so that no one can accuse me of concealing the issue. To be honest, I was simply too lazy to create videos in March and April, and I was pretty frustrated with YouTube because I'd been looking for good scriptwriters and editors to help me with my channel but couldn't find anyone suitable so far. So anyone who feels up to the task is, of course, welcome to get in touch with me. If you speak English, can identify weapon systems and vehicles, distinguish between a tank and an IFV, understand basic tactical concepts, have an interest in security and geopolitics, and don't mind me sending you countless Telegram links to combat footage every day for you to comment on, then you're exactly the right person. Just check out the link in the description, and now back to topic. On March 8, 2025, Russian troops used a gas pipeline north of Sucha to emerge behind Ukrainian lines and launch a surprise assault on defensive positions around the town. For this, Russian operatives traveled up to 15 kilometers inside the pipeline, spending several days underground before emerging. While Russia largely credited this operation with recapturing Kursk, the overall success of the counteroffensive in the Kursk region is rather attributable to a combination of Trump's week-long suspension of US intelligence sharing and military aid to Ukraine that was effective from March 5, 2025, following the Oval Office scandal and Russia's envelopment tactics, which forced Ukraine either to withdraw or to risk being encircled and decimated in high-intensity combat. This Russian drone video reportedly shows Russian strikes on a Ukrainian convoy just as it was about to leave the city of Sucha. After the operation, even President Putin himself arrived in Kursk dressed in full military uniform. I believe that this is the first time during this war that we saw him like this. This helmet cam footage shows Ukrainian soldiers in a car being hunted by Russian FPV drones through the no man's land between Russia and Ukraine as they retreated from Kursk. Here a drone missed them, resulting in a close call. They sped down the road past numerous car wrecks, fully aware that they had to expect further drone attacks. They stopped, and a soldier tried to fend off another Russian FPV drone with a shotgun, but the attempt failed. This led him to switch to his assault rifle, with which he repeatedly tried to shoot down the drone as it made several passes overhead, but it evaded every shot. At least his use of the weapon seemed to keep the drone at a distance, preventing it from crashing directly into him or the vehicle immediately. This, however, only delayed the inevitable. The drone made one final dive toward the Ukrainian pickup truck, but miraculously didn't hit it directly. Instead, it crashed just in front of the vehicle, sparing the truck. Being left without transport would have been fatal for the soldiers in that situation, and fortunately for them their ride was spared, so they were able to quickly leave the area after the encounter. I think the fact that they drove past so many destroyed vehicles on the road shows just how lucky they were. What do you think? The loss of Kursk, however, did not deter the Ukrainians from launching another attempt to seize Russian territory, this time in Belgorod. Based on the limited amount of video footage from the area, it appears that the Ukrainians tried to replicate the Kursk operation. Mechanized formations, comprising a blend of Western and Eastern tanks, infantry fighting vehicles and specialized breaching equipment, punched through the defensive fortifications before fanning out on Russian soil. Mines were cleared with mine-clearing charges, and the Ukrainian Air Force deliberately destroyed bridges in Belgorod to disrupt and delay any Russian defensive response. For this, weapons such as the French precision-guided, rocket-assisted Hammer glide bombs were employed. For their part, the Russians employed heavy fab glide bombs in an effort to destroy the Ukrainian units that had already dug themselves in on Russian soil. Glide bombs are conventional bomb bodies fitted with pop-out wings and guidance kits that let an aircraft release them dozens of kilometers from the target, then glide in autonomously. Their key advantage is standoff precision. They cost far less than cruise missiles, yet allow crews to strike defended targets without flying into the densest air defense zones. Smaller glide munitions such as Edge Group's Rash 3H can even be launched from compact UAVs like the Emirati Reachers or the Jib. The latter is extraordinarily cost-effective, costing only about $499,000, an astonishingly low price for a UAV of that size. The same approach can be applied to larger munitions in more sophisticated configurations, such as the Al-Tariq kit for Mk-80 aerial bombs. It is modular and contains a front section, the warheads, a wing kit, and a rear section. It has a range of up to 120 kilometers and, unlike the Russian FABs, can even engage moving targets. So far, it seems that Ukraine's efforts in the Belgorod region have not achieved the success their earlier Kursk offensive did. This is mainly because Russia appears to have learned from its initial mistakes at Kursk and was far better prepared this time. FPV drone units were already positioned at the front, and mines could be deployed tactically by cargo UAVs to seal off gaps in the defensive lines after Ukrainian forces had cleared them. This appears to have prevented Ukrainian forces from pushing deeper into Belgorod and establishing a foothold comparable in size to the territory they seized in Kursk earlier. Nonetheless, the operation did allow Ukrainian forces to establish, at least in part, a buffer zone between Belgorod and Ukraine's Sumy region, which Russia has recently been eyeing. Russian forces were also able to field attack helicopters that once again sniped advancing Ukrainian armored vehicles, such as the Bradley with anti-tank missiles, as shown in the footage now on screen. This tactic had already proved successful during Ukraine's failed 2023 counteroffensive in Zaporizhia. However, this time the Ukrainians were able to exact revenge on several Russian helicopters when a drone spotted a group of Russian transport and attack helicopters at what was most likely a forward arming and refueling point. The coordinates were quickly relayed to a Ukrainian HIMARS crew, which struck the site, destroying at least 2, possibly 3 or even 4 helicopters based on the footage. It seems the cycle of retaliation just keeps turning. A Russian drone spotted, tracked and filmed the destruction of a Ukrainian HIMARS system, though in Kramatorsk rather than Belgorod. Reportedly an Iskander missile was used, but as so often with Russian drone footage, the video quality is very poor. This is intense footage of a Ukrainian Bradley assault on Russian positions in the direction of the village of Sribny near Pokrovsk. We can see a Ukrainian drone tracking what appear to be at least 2 Bradley infantry fighting vehicles belonging to the 225th Assault Regiment, as they use their 25mm Bushmaster cannons to cover their advance. Notably, here is the significant amount of outgoing fire covering a relatively large area of the settlement in a drive-by style shooting. This is showcasing the Bradley's ability to fire effectively on the move, especially when compared to older Russian IFVs like the BMP-1, for example. Also interesting is the use of a netting rotating with the turret to cover the rear exit of the Bradley, making it more difficult for FPV drones to fly into the back of the vehicle during the dismounting process. And during that exact moment, the vehicle is hit on the side. Unclear if it was struck by an FPV drone or something else, but the Bradley took the hit like a champ. Its mass even appears to have shielded the already dismounted infantry from serious injury. The Ukrainian assault element, however, didn't want to push its luck any further and aborted the attack. Due to a cut in the footage following soon, it is unclear whether the Bradley allowed the infantry to remount or left the kill zone on its own. What suggests that the infantry was taken back on board is the fact that the vehicle didn't immediately speed off in full retreat mode, but instead moved alongside the infantry at walking pace, continuing to shield them from potential fire coming from the houses on its right flank. On the other hand, There are plenty of examples from both the Ukrainian and Russian side showing armored vehicles abandoning entire infantry squads or individual soldiers who were unable to remount in time and were left behind as a result. Most of the time, it depends on the experience level of the vehicle crews and the intensity of the situation. In mid-April, Russian forces launched what Western military experts have described as the vanguard of a significant new offensive operation in Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia Oblast, as illustrated by footage currently displayed on the screen. Thus far, the operation has primarily involved mechanized assaults, small infantry group tactics, and the use of electronic warfare to create corridors facilitating rapid advances. On the first day alone, Russian forces reportedly deployed over 320 soldiers, approximately 40 armored vehicles, and 3 tanks. The initial offensive appeared focused on frontline areas near Pyatikhatki, Stepov, Lobkov, Molotov-Mechka, and Moly-Sherbeki. Russian sources claim successful advances toward Molotov-Mechka. However, Ukrainian defense forces have reported repelling these assaults, inflicting significant personnel and equipment losses on the attacking Russian units. According to Ukrainian Southern Defense Forces spokesperson Vladislav Voloshin, Russian forces are attempting to advance as deeply as possible into Zaporizhzhia Oblast, with the ultimate goal of reaching its administrative borders. This operation appears to be designed to achieve several key objectives, gaining territorial advantage before any potential ceasefire negotiations, forcing Ukraine to commit valuable resources to the southern front, creating a more defensible line around Russian-occupied territories, demonstrating Russian offensive capabilities following a period of relative stalemate, and potentially bringing the city of Zaporizhzhia within artillery range. The Russian Rybar Telegram channel reported as early as March 2025 that Russian forces had begun moving in the eastern section of the Zaporizhzhia front, following a period of relative stagnation. Since then, the number of assault actions in the region has significantly increased. However, it should be noted that, at the time, activity on this front remained low compared to other hotspots in the war. On April 14, 2025, the first new major Russian military operations began, though they have so far achieved only limited success, according to geolocated footage and maps. It is possible that the operation is part of what has been termed the 2025 Russian Spring Offensive, a military escalation that reportedly began in early April 2025. The offensive comes amid ongoing discussions about potential ceasefire agreements, with Russia attempting to maximize territorial gains before any such agreement. Russian President Vladimir Putin had previously demanded in June 2024 that Ukraine cede all of Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhzhia, and Kherson Oblast as part of any resolution to the conflict. While the initial assault involved significant forces, the territorial gains have been modest, with advances of only approximately 800 meters in some sectors despite committing substantial resources. This suggests continued Ukrainian defensive capabilities despite stretched resources across multiple fronts. However, it could be still possible that Russia will maintain or increase pressure in the Zaporizhzhia direction, potentially committing additional forces to exploit any initial gains. The offensive also could expand to include other sectors of the Zaporizhzhia front, particularly if Russian forces identify vulnerabilities across Ukrainian defenses. This drone footage shows a stubborn donkey refusing to follow a Russian soldier. The soldier pulls on the leash of the pack animal, hoping to get it to move forward, but his efforts remain fruitless. Over the last couple of months, more and more short video clips have emerged showing Russian soldiers using horses and donkeys for transportation and logistics. While pro-Ukrainian voices attribute this to at least a partial local shortage of equipment at certain parts of the front, there are also a variety of other logical factors behind it. These animals offer several advantages. They leave no electronic signature, generate minimal heat detectable by thermal imaging, require no fuel, and can navigate difficult terrain better than most vehicles or unmanned ground systems. Additionally, they are merely supplementing, not replacing, the majority of Russian logistics. The same applies to the often mocked use of civilian cars by Russian forces. While it may look amusing, it can still make sense under certain circumstances. We should see it as a pragmatic willingness to adopt low-tech solutions where modern technology becomes increasingly vulnerable. This helmet cam footage from Kursk, for example, also shows Ukrainian troops using civilian cars for transportation. These vehicles have a much lower profile and signature, and they produce less noise compared to larger armored vehicles. In situations like this, it's more practical to transport buddy teams in civilian cars rather than deploying an armored personnel carrier or IFV every time a two-man team needs to be moved around the front. These two men had to stop and leave their vehicle after noticing a Russian FPV drone that targeted them, but its attack failed. Because the car was not damaged by the kamikaze drone, the men were able to jump back into their vehicle and continue their journey. To allow soldiers to exit their vehicles more quickly during FPV drone attacks, the doors of the cars are often removed, making it easier to get in and out rapidly. Alternatively, vehicles with open, large cargo beds are also used, allowing soldiers to jump off quickly or to more easily attempt to bring down drones using small arms or anti-drone rifles, one of which can be seen here. In this case, however, there seems to have been no time for that, as we witness an entire Russian squad quickly jumping off the truck bed to escape the detonation. They managed to evade the strike this time, but there are countless examples of similar attempts that did not end as fortunately for the soldiers. However, such footage can only be shared on Telegram. That there are Chinese nationals fighting alongside Russian forces in Ukraine has been known for some time, and some footage of them, such as the example shown here, has already surfaced. However, Ukrainian forces recently managed to capture 2 Chinese nationals during combat and released video footage showing their passports, along with an interrogation confirming that they are indeed Chinese. Because Russian trolls will most likely claim that these individuals are not Chinese, I've included the interrogation footage here with translations, so you can see for yourself what they had to say.
来自中国江西，我现在在乌克兰被俘虏。
Мене звати Джан Рембо. Я громадянин Китаю з провінції Цзянсі. Зараз я перебуваю в полоні в Україні.
Чи брали ви участь в безпосередніх бойових діях проти військового ЗСУ?
有没有参加战斗行为对乌克兰军人？
这是我第一次出任务，也是当时就是我第一次经历战斗。我没有，我自始至终都没有开过一个枪。
Це був мій перший вихід, перше бойове завдання. До цього я не брав участь у бойових завданнях, і до того, як я потрапив туди, я ніколи не тримав зброю в руках.
Хто вам командував? Це хлопці були росіяни, як ви спілкувалися з ними?
谁指挥你们？这是俄罗斯人吗？你们怎么跟他们沟通？
俄罗斯人指挥我们，我们主要的是靠着他带着我们，做一些手势或者做一些比划一些，动作，或者说是跟着他去做同样的事情。
Командував росіянин, він просто казав нам, що робити, ми повторювали за ним, що він робив в темі.
А коли у вас була зброя, коли ви її втратили, за яких обставин?
你的枪什么时候没了？在什么条件下没了？
我的枪在那个当时有一块遮住我们的房子的那个木板下面，被无人机给炸坏掉了。
Коли ми ховались в дерев'яному укритті, нас атакував дрон і він пошкодив мою зброю.
Яка у вас була зброя?
Я шматян.
用的 AK-74。
АК-74.
Хто з вами був разом, скільки у вас людей було?
На шляху мій інший зайці, я в Тігрі.
我们是2个人。
В той момент нас було двоє.
Хто це був?
Шишей.
是一个俄罗斯人。
Росіяни.
Чи можна сказати, що в полоні в Україні до вас ставиться краще, ніж в Росії, коли ви воювали за них?
可不可以说你在乌克兰被俘的时候对你对待比你在乌克兰比你在俄罗斯军队中的时候好？听明白我的问题吗？
我在被乌克兰俘虏，比在俄罗斯吃的更好，生活条件我们更安全，生活条件更好了。
Тут в Україні мене годують краще, ніж в Росії. До мене ставляться краще і тут безпечніше.
А ви хочете на погляд?
你想不想被换了？
我不想回到俄罗斯。
Я не хочу повернутися в Росію.
А А якщо обмін буде відбуватися, то що б ви хотіли, наприклад, залишитися в Україну чи повернутися, наприклад, в Китай?
如果会换一下，你想留下在武汉，还是回去到中国？
我想回到中国。
Хочу повернутися в Китай.
Коли ви приїхали в Росію, ви ж не звільнилися зі своєї роботи рятування, правильно?
你来到你去到俄罗斯的时候，你是不是没有离开你的工作？没有辞职，没辞职。
Вас шукають?
有人找你吗？
我不知道有没有人找我。
Я не знаю, чи будуть шукати.
А ви не зв'язувалися з ними по інтернету?
你有没有？
已经打不进来了，电话，国内的电话已经打不进来了。
国内的还是没有网络？
对，国内的没有网络，国内的和在俄罗斯办的一张卡也没有网络。
有 WiFi 的时候，你不会联系他们？
有 WiFi 的时候少，我跟家里面打过一次视频，但是那时候我不敢告诉他们，我到了俄罗斯，当了兵，我怕他们担心。
По-перше, більшу частину часу не було інтернету, по-друге, він лише один раз відправляв відео для батьків, але він не сказав, що він в Росії, не сказав, що він став солдатом, щоб вони не турбувалися.
我叫王广军。
Ван Гуандзюн. Мене звати Ван Гуандзюн, я громадянин Китаю. Яка шанда?
中国河南省。
Джанчжоу. Я з провінції Хенань, місто Джанчжоу, мені 34 роки, і я зараз знаходжусь в Україні в полоні.
你公司外人的老的，
你们原来小队有5个人，对吗？2个俄罗斯人，3个中国人，对吗？俄罗斯人小队长死了，对吗？
他是我刚才讲你可能没听明白啊，是我们不是散了吗？走散了啊，我们只有我和编女走在了一起，另外3个人有2个中国人，1个外国人，他们去到了不知道是什么地方，我们又遇到了另外2个第10队的，我们是4队，他们是10队，我们在半路的荒野中遇到了。
那之后你是一个中国人，还有
3个
俄罗斯人，
对，3个俄罗斯，就临时组的，然后就不知道什么情况就开始。
这个3个俄罗斯人其中有没有你的小队的人？
就编女，就他带着我投降的。
其他的中国人他们都散了。
我也不知道是死了还是。
Вони здавались в трьох, це його зам командира, який Пень чи якось так. Інші росіяни, вони його знайшли десь по дорозі, бо всі розбігалися хаотично. Ще 2 китайців вони загубили десь.
А як ви кажете, що українці допомогли, врятували вам життя, що ви маєте на увазі?
你说乌克兰人救了你，怎么救了？
就是俄罗斯往那个地堡里面投催泪瓦斯，催泪瓦斯，然后
就是化学还是什么？
烟雾很浓很呛，很窒息的烟雾。然后我不知道如何躲避，我就傻傻的待在那里。 然后我感觉我已经要死窒息了，然后乌克兰的战士已经跑出去，他又下来拉着我的领子，把我给拽了上去。但是在拽的过程当中，我已经昏迷了。
昏迷了是？
就昏迷了。
Врятували таким чином, що вже коли він здався в полон, росіяни скинули на них якусь вибухівку з газами. Він знаходився всередині укриття, надихався цим газом. Він думав, що він вже загине, але український військовий прибіг, витягнув його за шкірки назовні, і вже після того він втратив свідомість.
Ёбнула гусянка. Нова гусениця. Тут пизда обрізала. Тут пизда. Звітом пизда.